Welcome to L. James Workshop. No relation to James, and I'm going to show you how painting is secretly easy. Slapchop is an ancient technique invented by the monks on Mount Grisaille. Wasn't really, it was brought popularity by Rob the Honest Wargamer, who actually learnt it from his intern Louise. Slapchop's great, because you can paint anything from smaller models, medium models, really big models, anything from terrain, all sorts. Doesn't matter if it's Star Wars, 40k, Age of Sigmar, you can crack out full armies like I did here at 1,000 points in about a week, even larger armies, and you can have people look at them and think, you know what, that looks half decent. First simple household item that you're going to have for this, kitchen roll. Use your favourite, I don't know, do people have favourite kitchen rolls? Bit of kitchen roll, simple. Next up is your primer. I like to start from a grey primer instead of a black. I really enjoy Colourforge's standard grey. Games Workshop also do Mechanicus standard grey. Prefer Colourforge, you get a bit more in the can. It's a little bit cheaper, it's really good. Follow instructions on the can, give it a good shake, 2 minutes. Keep it nice and warm, so you can use that, just put it in warm water, not boiling. This 24-hour drying time, load of rubbish. Next up, we need white. Bold titanium white from Acryl is my favourite, and I think it's personally the best white on the market. White's notoriously bad to get done, and Acryl have got a great job of it. Next up is the brushes. I'm personally really enjoying these ones from Artify. I got them a couple of weeks ago. About 20-25 quid or so. Games Workshop also do a dry brush. It's a pretty decent brush, to be honest. I just prefer a makeup brush or the Artify style brushes, which are similar to the Artis Opus ones, just considerably cheaper. We're going to give a paint a good shake just to get started, like we will with all paint. Place a little bit onto a paper towel, and then we're going to start to work it into the brush. So we're just going to do little circles, back and forth, whatnot, just to work it into the bristles. And then we're going to rub the majority of the paint actually off. As you'll see, I've already got some colours already on this piece. I can use this to actually see how much is going to come off onto the model before I actually use it on any other part of the model. So if you pick up a already primed model, as you can see, you can be an absolute plonker like me, try it on a bit that's already white, or you just put it over the rim of the base, which is grey. I'm going to test, see how much comes off. So I'm going to take a model. I like to start somewhere that's a bit inconspicuous, like the back of the foot, something like that. Something that's not right foot and centre. All I'm going to do is lightly pull the brush across, just to get a feel for how the textures are going to come up. You do start to get a hang of this the more you do it. You're going to pull it across, pull all the texture up. These like Underworlds models come with textures bases, so I can just practice on this, see how much is going to come off onto the brush before I start to apply it to the model. Like I say, this is all just like a learning experience, so the more you do it, the more you can get a feel for it, so you can kind of go a little bit tougher. And once you've got a good feel for how the paint is going to manipulate around the model. For a slightly more in-depth version of this, I'm going to have a separate video on just getting your base coat down to a great level. Obviously, to apply the contrasts, you're going to want some brushes. I like synthetic brushes. The cheap chaff will do the job good enough. Got these from Amazon, absolutely loads of them. You're probably looking at like 20 quid for a good handful of them. Your contrast paints, you might get some of them that do look like this. Don't worry about it. All you gotta do is give them a really, really good shake. All that is a pigment, so the actual colour it will start to separate from the medium, which is basically what makes the paint flow. You shake it all up, mix it back together, job's a good one. Now just going to apply the paint from the pot to the wet palette. The wet palette's really important for Slapchop, and a lot of people that jumped on the Slapchop bandwagon seem to forget this step. It really helps with the final result. When I'm applying my paint to the brush too, I'm only going to put it about halfway up because I don't want to get into the metal bit. This is going to damage your brush if you do. No problems if you do that though, just make sure you give it a good wash. Next we're going to start applying some paint to the actual model. We're going to get the paint from the wet palette, start applying it to the model. Don't worry, what you got to kind of watch out for is just any pools. So if you see on the back, just around his tricep, it has started to pool a bit. Don't worry about it though, because this paint is, especially through the wet palette, it's very malleable. So if you see this little bit here, if you don't know what a tricep is. You can use your brush to soak it up a little bit and move around. Don't worry too much about if you get it on somewhere that is going to be a darker colour, or later obviously I'm going to show you how we're going to play around with the black armour. Because when we cover it, obviously a darker colour is going to cover over a lighter colour, dead easy. So we're just going to work around the model, ideally missing out the bits where we're going to have them a lighter colour, because we don't want to splodge on that, but don't worry about it, just work nicely. If we do make a mistake like here, I'll show you how just easy it is to work your way through that. So we're going to clean the brush off, bit of water on it, just run it back over the model, and then almost just kind of suck up the paint and the water. It'll take the paint straight off the model, so don't worry about it, dead easy to do. Next up we've got Skeleton Horde. It does exactly what you'd expect it is, great for bowing, any sort of beige wrappings, bandages, etc. We're just going to take it straight out of the pot onto a wet palette. The wet palette's going to make the paint that bit thinner, little tiny bit easier to work with, not that contrast necessarily is, gives you that little bit extra control. So you don't want to be putting too much on, because like with the white dry brush, we don't want to put, it's a lot easier to put too little on and then work it up than to put too much on and then obviously work it down. Again, I'm going to let the brush do a lot of the work here, just work around any bit that I'm going to want to have this colour. You'll see it is quite a thin paint, but what I'm going to do is I'll show you a little bit later just how we can get about that. So we'll just work our way around the model, anything like obviously skulls, tusks, the bandages that are on his spear, on the back of his arms. There is a little tiny bit that I do miss on this bit, on his left arm, but don't worry, I'll get it later, for them people that tend to think you're going to stress out about it. But yeah, look, I just work my way around, dead simple, works great for that. You might think, oh, you've got a skull, you've got this, it's going to look like the skull is made out of the same thing as a wrapping. Once you've got all the colours around, or even you can go around this, put a second coat on, just to slightly darken that skull, create more distinction between the skull, the bandages. Like you see, just here, there's more wrapping just underneath the skull, but by using a second coat, or using a slightly heavier application with the brush, looks like two separate colours. Next up is Wyldwood, really good colour for doing wood, leather, etc. You can see I'm just going to, obviously I've already showed how I'm going to apply it, so I'm not going to show you exactly how I put on every single paint. Next up we've got Snakebite Leather, again, great for doing leather. It's a little bit lighter than Wyldwood. What I like to do, because I've got so many models of the same type, I'm going to use separate browns. Garaghak Sewer is very similar to Wyldwood. It is a bit darker. Wyldwood's a bit warmer, whereas Garaghak's is a lot darker. But once you have a look at both of them side by side, you do see the difference on that. Black Templar does exactly what you expect. It's black. I'm going to work my way around, use this on any little bits that I want to be black. It's a slightly bluey black. Black Legion, this paint is magic. It's basically, it's a second wave of contrast, which isn't really a contrast. You don't get much detail on it, but what it does do, it's a really heavily, it's got very, very good coverage. So you can work your way around the model. I'm going to blacken all of the metal plates, because I'm going to show you just how I'm going to create a really simple black armour with this. So I'm going to work my way around, still off the wet palette. This is going to be one coat and cover this all. To highlight the black armour, I'm going to use dark warm grey from Acryl. Again, Acryl is absolutely brilliant for dry brushing, really high pigment in each of the colours. The white's great as well, they've got great coverage, absolutely love them as a brand. Again, with me dry brushing, I'm just going to put it onto me paper towel, because I'm a peasant, and work off the paint till I've only got obviously a small bit left onto the brush. I'm gonna get a model, so for example I'm just going to do it on one of these shields. I'm just going to run it back and forth as I do, pick the detail up. Obviously I'm going to try and start off light, not put too much on, because I don't want to put too much on. Again, it's easier to work up than down. So this is how it'll look directly over Black Legion. Again, that's just one coat. I'm just going to dry brush over the model, pick out all the detail. Next up is Steel from the Vallejo Model Air range. Don't worry that it's an air paint, it's just as good with a brush. I'm going to use this to dry brush onto the chainmail, spear tip that I've painted over with Black Legion. Absolutely brilliant. And finally, just to talk about how Slapchop can really help you get through masses of models all at the same time. I like the painting in a way called batch painting, where what I'll do is I'll do multiple models with the same steps one by one. So I'll start off dry brushing a single model, then I'll move on to the next one, and then I'll do the next one, the next one. Once I've got them all prepped, I can move on to like the first colour. So say I'll do the skin on this one. I'll do the skin first, do the skin on the next one, do the skin on the next one. I'll paint anywhere from maybe 5 to, at my most extreme, I think I've painted about 40 models all at the same time. All it does is just, you set up a little, almost like an assembly line where you'll do your first model, then you move on to your second model, then your third one, fourth one. If you've got any drying time between, like dry brushing, you don't really have a drying time or anything of the sort, but some of the contrasts will depend on how thickly or heavily that you've put it on, or how watered down it is. The more water that is going to be in the contrast, the longer it's going to take for that water to evaporate or whatnot. I really hope this video just shows that painting isn't intimidating as you may think it needs to be. And through Slapchop, you can, in batch painting, you can get through a load of models with a pretty decent quality of standard, I think. I'm happy with it, and is proud to put is the correct word, I don't know, is to put it onto the table and play fully painted games, because there's nothing better than the first time you play a game, 2 fully painted armies, regardless of necessarily how good they are. Like, it doesn't need to be display quality, but having on a good table, nice terrain, 2 good painted armies, rolling some dice with your mate, there's no better. Painting isn't even necessarily like one of my favourite things, and I think that's why I pick a lot of things to almost kind of cut corners with the grey undercoat instead of the black, grey, white. The black, it's that extra step, you're cutting a step out. The black makes the recesses really dark, and some of them you'll notice that they're quite hard to get into because how models are positioned. The grey will still show some of the colour through the contrast, so you're not ending up with these really, really dark spots, which can work for shadows, etc. The only thing with that is that sometimes it doesn't work how you want it to do. Whereas the contrast, because of the nature of how they work, it's going to darken them deepest recesses. They're still going to darken them, so you're still going to have that detail that is in the depth. I like to just play games, so painting like this is a way for me to get things on the table, and like I say, I think they look half decent. So if anything, I really hope someone can just take tips away from this, leave comments in the comment section. Is that what it says? I don't know, because I'm not really someone that ever does leave comments on videos. But if there's any questions out that maybe I've missed, or something that you got a question of, drop us a message and I'll happily answer it, because I can talk about this rubbish all day, mate. Bit of a boring thing to end with, but it needs to be done. Protect your investment. Finally is just brush care. I'm going to want to clean my dry brushes after I use any colour other than white, really. I do still use it if I do white after a quite heavy session. Not that kind of session. I'm going to clean them off with brush soap. This set from Artify come with its own. There's another company called Masters who do a great brush soap. Just follow the instructions on there. All you're going to do is wash it in warm water, lather it up, take the paint off via that. Finally, just a thanks for watching. I hope this shows that painting really isn't that hard. A little bit of practice, anybody can get half decent results, in my opinion. Paint, have games, speak to your mates, make sure everybody's doing sound. If anybody tries to tell you, look, it's called Grisaille, just tell them, look, I'm just trying to have fun, mate. Like and share, nah, that rubbish. It's good for the algorithm, innit? So just subscribe for any more content. Hopefully, I can get myself around to making some.